Cognitive offloading has been done for a long time. Anyone know about early onset midlife? Anyone know how to tell a male's going into midlife? Well, there's two things. One is they're always talking about their weather app. Who's with me? And they'll literally look up at the sunny sky and they go, it's not meant to be like this. The second thing is they start getting into ancient history late. I was in London, and now, as you know, midlife, now rather than thinking which pub I want to go to, I want to rush to the Mesopotamian area of the British Museum. And you can go and you can look at the earliest forms of cognitive offloading. Cuneiform tablets where the Sumerians were just starting to map out, you owe me money and you took this much wheat from me. When humans firstly started to encode the written code, so the oral code, and encode it into what we then created as writing, was a cognitive offloading rather than like, you owe me this and you owe me this and you owe me this. We actually found a way to get it down. And bit by bit, we found other ways to do calculation, whether it's the abacus or the calculator. Who has to run a to-do list? Otherwise, you're always thinking. And even Google that came out when, I was finishing up high school, there was this sense of like, wow, I don't have to hold everything. I can go and find it and search for it. And the real question, and the thing for our young colleagues here, is to ask, is AI just another one of these? And I want to say it's very different. Hey, who's ever used AI to write an email that you've been avoiding? You know that email that's been hanging there and it goes over the 48-hour use by date, and then you're like, oh, I really need, and then you don't do it this week, and you go, I'll do it on Monday. Have you ever opened your inbox? I've even held my hand there and go, I don't want to see that email there because it makes me feel bad. Has anyone used AI to help craft an email to a challenging response? Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? Hey, would you craft a love poem with it? I mean, a friend of mine did this. He was running short of time, put some conditions in a ChatGPT 4, got it to write it for his wife, and he wrote it into a card, and she started crying. She thought it was beautiful. 2 days later, he told her that it was a fake, and it's been a net negative for their relationship. Why is that? I wonder... yeah, stupid. I wonder what's the most trivial thing you've shared, or what's the most important thing you've used ChatGPT. Can you just turn to someone nearby and just, come off the screen and come up into the face? Just share what's something trivial or serious that you've done on ChatGPT. Go for it. Zone of silence, by the way. You can't tell anyone else about this. All right, well, now we've got that off our chest, a little bit of guilt removal. What I need you to understand, and if I was speaking to your students, and as a former high school teacher, and I was a Year 12 coordinator with 220 students, and I know that they would be asking, hey, this is just going to be around, we've got to get used to using it. But here's what we as educators need to understand. For the first time, you're not just cognitively outsourcing memory. You're not just cognitively outsourcing processing. You are now cognitively outsourcing the very processes of thinking. Ideation, redrafting, summarizing, planning, structuring, coding. What did we hear from Dylan yesterday in his big number one ideas? Some of the core foundational ideas, which is actually learning is a change in long-term memory. And as Daniel Willingham would tell us, learning is the residue of thinking, or memory is the residue of thinking. You don't get any memory, you don't get any long-term schema formation, you don't get mental model formation without a huge amount of thinking. And each of these processes is how, during the educational processes that you and I went through, we learnt to think. How do you learn to generate ideas? The nonsense vacuous stuff that I hear at conference is something like, we don't need engineers anymore, we need prompt engineers. And I see work plans coming out where a 7-year-old kid will say, well, let's start a writing process. The first thing we're going to do is generate some ideas. And we don't sit around and get them to do the cognitive process of retrieval, go into their mind, connect different things that they might know, and actually generate an idea. They learn to ask ChatGPT for 6 or 7 ideas that could be a good starting point. Now, I'm okay with you doing that. You do it. You do all the cognitive offloading you need to do in your job to survive because you already have well-formed mental models with background knowledge. But how dare we do it to those who haven't yet formed their own sense of self or mind or thought? Oh no, we stage it out, say the lesson plans. We do a little bit of time on ideation, then we do some drafting, then we get it to do the drafting. All of that was the learning process. The desirable difficulties that Dylan talked about yesterday from Bjork and Bjork talks about that unless you do retrieval, space retrieval, unless you do hard things, there is no residue of the work. You see, when we all started to teach, the output was good evidence of the learning. If I got a good essay, if I got a good assignment, that was a pretty good proxy for one of two things. Either the kid had done some work or they had a really involved parent. But if I got that decent response, I could extrapolate from that. This kid has learned how to think. She's got an argument. She's crafted that together. It's taken her a few iterations. That's tough and there. The products of assignments now are not correlated at all with what you can infer about what learning has occurred for that student. So what do we do? Hey, can I just, loud and proud, who takes the escalators? Go on. Escalators or stairs? Who takes the escalators? Hands up high and proud. Good. And who takes the escalators? Sorry, who takes the stairs? But when they do it, they make sure they beat someone on the escalators. You're like, it's like that Mr. Bean, you know? Because you've learned, I do hard things. Now, I do this all the time in airports, and I'll even pick something up, just like to rub it in. Then at the top, I'm like, but what's the limit? Like, would you take the escalator, a little airport thing like this? What about in Tokyo or London when you look up this like? Writing an essay at 14 is like a Tokyo subway set of escalators or stairs. Do you really think any actual switched on 14 or 15-year-old or 7-year-old will ever take the stairs by choice? And when people break it up and say, oh no, you don't understand, we did some ideation here and then we did some this. Yeah, you got them to take the escalator here and then walk across. Just when it was hard, got them to take the escalator here. And teachers are proud at the output. They've never seen such great output, and that output has never meant less about what has been learnt. AI-infused classrooms will be the fastest route to a set of Catholic school graduates who do not know what they think. The best way to learn how to use AI is to not use it for learning during your developmental phases, such that you can use it as well as I can use it, because I have been fully formed first. So what do you do, colleagues? What do you do? Well, I would say to my dear friends here who were on the panel before, bringing ChatGPT to complete assignments is like bringing a forklift into the weight room. You will never improve your cognitive fitness that way. And at every point, my brain wants to jump to ChatGPT as quickly as possible because thinking is hard. Now, I want to say that the evidence is in. This isn't just me rocking on as an elder millennial getting grumpy at the next generation. MIT has done a series of studies tracking people as they've used ChatGPT over time. ChatGPT users had the lowest brain engagement, consistently underperformed at neural, linguistic, and behavioural levels over a period of time. We've got to take the stairs. A group of doctors were studied over time using AI to make judgments around cancer diagnosis. This study in The Lancet showed that over time, doctors who were using it more became less skilled. Has anyone got a fancy fancy car? You might have a scar as well. We can talk about that another time. But has anyone got a fancy car that does lane assist? Does anyone have a car that basically parks themselves? Do you ever think your 16-year-old learning how to drive will never have that experience of being on a road with cars behind you and having to slot a reverse park with 3 of your mates in the car, someone honking behind, because they're just going to go, oh yeah, it's all sorted out. Now, maybe for car driving it doesn't matter. Maybe they'll never have to actually worry. It's just a performance task. But what I heard from the Archbishop and the minister yesterday was that you were interested in formation. So my first antidote to this shift, and the one that we're spending a bit longer on, is that in an age of cognitive offloading, schools need to be literally sanctuaries of human thought. When a kid comes in, they go, thank heavens the adults are in the room. Because even if I've got my phone there, I can't help but look at it, just like you all and me. And when I come in, I'm engaged in the rich Catholic intellectual tradition of learning how to think. Now, some people will say, why bother learning how to write, Simon? ChatGPT can write better than me. Yeah, it can. It can write better than me, too. And even some of our wonderful English literature kind of graduates here are starting to go, oh, this is almost better than me. But I want to say the two enduring practices, the two pewter mugs for this, is to learn how to write and learn how to speak. Writing, 5,000 years old. Rhetoric, at least 2,000 to 3,000 years if you go to the Greeks and the Romans. And I'd say to my colleague in the middle here, I'd say, I get it. Trust me, I can speak 3 times quicker than I can write 2. Let's focus on the rhetoric there. But I don't want to rule out the writing. Not because your writing needs to be perfect, but because unless you're actually writing, you may not actually be thinking. Has anyone spoken something and someone says, that's really good, you should write it up? And you go, yeah, I will. And then you're like, oh my goodness, that didn't even make sense. Daisy Christodoulou in the UK has helped me understand this. She wrote a great blog, and all my references and quotes you can take away and have a look at. She said, generative AI might already be a better writer than you in terms of being able to quickly draft readable and error-free texts. That's already true. If you don't know that, it is scary. But is it better than you at working out what you actually think? Many schools are saying ChatGPT is a better writer. The community purposes of writing can now be outsourced. And I say, yeah, it can be. Outsource that email. I don't care. But I want actual graduates to know what they think. Writing is a process of learning what you think. And no LLM can be better than you at working out what you think. Unless, of course, you're going to hand over all of your graduates to think the average of what that model predicts is the next most important word. And the only ideas that they can generate is what their prompt engineering generates. The only drafting and redrafting that they can do is what the LLM does. I asked Dylan about this last night over a beer, and he said to me, there's some of the stuff I wrote that I had to step away from for 2 years before it was ready. There were things that he and Paul Black fought about for years in a tussle back and forth. ChatGPT could have summarized it the next day and got it in a publishable form, but it wasn't the work that then has been the foundation of his career for the last 20 years. Sometimes things take time. Writing and rhetoric are the things that we as humans have found to be the most strong foundational ways to learn how to think and to learn to work out what we think. And I think they're really good bets in the coming 3 years, and much, much better bets than AI-infused classrooms. If you want to work against cognitive offloading, then you need to set up sanctuaries of human thinking. Just because you as a fully formed adult with deep, strong schema and mental models can use AI for productive purposes, don't rule out that those that haven't yet done that formation deserve the opportunity to learn to think and to learn what they think.